Hey everyone, and welcome to Out There with Dean. And today I'm going to show you how much of Sydney you can explore in just a morning. Actually, probably not even a morning, just in 90 minutes. So stay tuned and stick with me. So Sydney's a bit of a transport hub, really. You can arrive on a cruise ship. You may have a long stopover or a medium stopover on a flight to somewhere else. Or it could just be the fact that you're meeting a friend and you want to do something in the city and see some of the sights. Sydney's actually quite accessible and you're able to do that quite easily. In fact, some of the biggest sites of Sydney are easy to see within about 30 minutes. So if you want some of those really great photo opportunities, it's quite easy to do and I'll show you how. So what I would recommend, whether or not you're arriving by a cruise ship or even at the airport, or again, if you're just meeting a friend later on and you want to have some time exploring, I'd recommend starting at Circular Quay. Circular Quay is a bit of a transport hub, so you can arrive by train, by ferry, by cruise ship, and or by bus, and it's a really great place to start off to actually get your bearings and to be able to see some of the big highlights of Sydney. So from Circular Quay train station at least, or even the cruise terminal, you can see two of the biggest sites in Sydney. So you can see the Sydney Opera House and the Sydney Harbour Bridge. So what I'd recommend doing is, as soon as you get off at Circular Quay train station, or if you're at the cruise terminal, walk up to the Opera House. It's quite accessible. It's a short walk, maybe a 10-minute walk from the train station, maybe a little bit longer from the cruise terminal, say about 15-20-minute walk, depending on how fast you are, and walk across to the Opera House. It's a really good opportunity to look at one of Sydney's most iconic buildings. You can walk around, basically around the whole perimeter of the building, look at the ocean from the Opera House and looking across to the Harbour Bridge, and then take some photos and maybe even go inside if you feel like you want to do that. It just does depend on shows though. If there's a show on at the Opera House, it may not be that easy to actually go inside or even go too far inside because it would be a ticketed event. But other than that, it's pretty accessible and you can go in there pretty easy. Be aware that if you are visiting the Opera House and you want to go up the front steps, there are quite a number of steps, and so it may not be as accessible for somebody that may need some assistance walking or has a wheelchair or anything like that. So once you've finished exploring the Opera House, you could take 10 minutes, you could take 20 minutes, depending on how much you're getting out of it. I probably wouldn't spend more than, say, 20 minutes at the Opera House. But once you're done there, you can loop back around to towards Circular Quay train station, just sticking by the water. So it's a really lovely walk. There's a number of sites that you can see from the Opera House all the way along, essentially to the Harbour Bridge. So you would pass back past the cruise terminal. You would also pass by the Modern Contemporary Art Museum, which is quite a extraordinary building. It's a blend of old style sandstone building with a ultra modern twist on the side. You can walk along, and if you want to get close to the Harbour Bridge, you can get really, really close. So in fact, you can actually walk underneath the Harbour Bridge and experience the bridge that way. It's quite a unique way to explore the bridge. A lot of people will walk over the bridge, which is something you can do, but just be aware if you're deciding to walk across the Harbour Bridge, you need to get back, and it's easy to get back, but it would add more time. I recommend walking underneath the Harbour Bridge. You'll get some really unique photos and a really unique experience that maybe not so many people decide to do. So from here, we're going to head to an area of Sydney called The Rocks. Now, The Rocks is actually Sydney's oldest historical district. The Rocks is full of cobblestone streets, old pubs, little boutiques, and also some weekend markets. So if you're in The Rocks or in Sydney on the weekend, you really need to be sure to check out the markets. It's also a good place to stop and have a bite to eat, grab a coffee. Just be aware that if you're there after around 10:30 a.m., it may be a little bit hard to find somewhere to sit down if you haven't made a reservation. You can get lucky, but you may need to wait a little bit if you're trying to just sit down, have a coffee, or have a bite to eat without a reservation. If you're there about after 10:30 in the morning. But other than that, it's such a lovely place to just walk through, take in some of the unique aspects of the rocks. It's really a mix of that old district, but with a real modern vibe as well. If you've got a few extra minutes in the morning, I really recommend exploring some of those little side streets, some of those stairs that look like they lead somewhere, because often they really will, and there will be somewhere to explore, maybe a coffee shop, or maybe just a little boutique store as well. So once you're done exploring the Rocks district, I recommend going back down by the water area and just keep following that around. Now, you're going to get some spectacular views of Sydney Harbour, and that will eventually bring you to an area of Sydney called Barangaroo. Now, Barangaroo is one of Sydney's newest and most modern precincts. So we've gone really from the Rocks, which was that old town, very historic old district Sydney, to Barangaroo, which is the newest area of Sydney, or one of the newest areas of Sydney. It's such a contrast to the Rocks. It's really sleek. The architecture is really cutting edge, and there's waterfront restaurants, a beautiful park on the water, and also some areas that you can sit really close to the water and just take all of Sydney in, with, again, some spectacular views. Now, if you didn't already eat at the Rocks, or even if you've worked up a bit of a hunger walking around that distance, it's not too far, by the way, maybe another 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, you can really sit down and have some world-class food around Barangaroo. There's a lot of places to eat and to drink, so there's a lot of bars and a lot of restaurants around that area. Depending on what time of day you're there, you may not want to be at a bar, but definitely check out some of the food if you're starting to feel hungry when you get to Barangaroo. From Barangaroo, that sort of leads you in, if you keep following the waterline, that leads you into another precinct of Sydney called Darling Harbour. Now, Darling Harbour is another really lively, colourful, full of energy area, and no matter what time of day it is, you're going to find something happening there, something to do. Again, there's a lot of bars, a lot of restaurants. There's also an IMAX theatre there, but there's a huge precinct that's opened up in Darling Harbour, which contains a lot of restaurants and a lot of entertainment. You'll find museums there, so the Maritime Museum is there. There's an aquarium there, so Sydney's Aquarium is based in Darling Harbour. And there's also a Madame Tussauds Wax Museum there, and an animal park, a wildlife park. So there's a whole lot to do. If you're there for the morning or just for that 90 minutes, you probably won't have enough time to go into each one of those places, but it's certainly worthwhile walking around and just checking it out. One of the best things about Darling Harbour as well is being able to people watch. You'll get people from all walks of life that are wandering through the area. Either they're going to work, they're local, they're just going about their day, or you'll get tourists, or you'll get anything in between. It's really quite an interesting area just to sit down and people watch. So from Darling Harbour, it's a short walk into really the centre of the city. It's quite a contrast as well. So Darling Harbour is right by the water. It's full of all the vibrant bars and people. But then you can walk up into the centre of the city, so around to the Town Hall district. So if you're following on Google Maps, you could put Town Hall into your GPS and follow the walking trail or the marker up to Town Hall. Walking up there, you're going to find a mix of old and new buildings. You're also going to come to one of probably the busiest parts of Sydney, and that's the Queen Victoria Building sort of intersection there. Again, a lot of people, but a real opportunity to take in some of that Sydney feeling and Sydney vibe. You are quite a long way away at this point from the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge, so don't be expecting to see the views of those from where you are now in the city, but you're in another part of the city that really has a lot to give in terms of culture and experience of Sydney life. Because you're at Town Hall, this really gives you the opportunity to travel anywhere in Sydney. So in this instance, if you're going back to the airport, you can easily catch a train back to the airport from Town Hall. Alternatively, if you're meeting a friend and you're just stopping through the city, you'll also have an opportunity to ride one of Sydney's newest modes of transport, which is the Sydney Metro. So the Metro has been in operation now for about a year, and it's really revolutionised the way that Sydney-siders travel around the city. It's quite limited at the moment in terms of where it can go and where it can take you, but they're opening more lines up soon, and I highly recommend, if you've got the opportunity to catch the Sydney Metro to go anywhere, if it's along the route that you're looking to go to, I would always use this. It's so much quicker than the regular train system, and it's nicer. It's a cleaner, better, more comfortable experience than the regular train. So that's it. That's Sydney in a morning. You really can explore a whole lot of Sydney if you have a very, very small amount of time. I know that some people get quite apprehensive about leaving the airport if they've got a stopover, or even feel like they need to book a whole lot of cruise shore excursions when they're on cruises. Really, you don't have to with Sydney, and a lot of cities around the world. If you just take a little bit of time, use videos and YouTube tutorials like this one, you can really plot out a pathway for yourself where you can see some of the sites and some of the most important sites of a city, and either get back to your cruise ship or, more importantly, get back to your aeroplane on time. It's really not that difficult, and Sydney's such a convenient city in relation to the distance to the airport as well. So it really does take some of that fear and some of that uncertainty around exploring the city. I really recommend, if you've got any time, just to do a bit of a walk around the foreshore, rewind this video, listen to some of the things that I've spoken about again, and really take in some of the sights and sounds of the city. Of course, there's a whole lot more of Sydney to explore, and I'll be covering those as well on this channel. But this was really just a taster. How do you do Sydney in a morning? Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out. And I'll see you next time. Bye.